morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to Beyond the Sim, where I, Shaun Cole, am here with my buddy Billy Strange to talk about sim racing for this week's action. How you doing, Billy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so-so. I've had I've had a rough week.
Too many push-ups for you.
That's where it all started. Downhill from there. Down the hill from there. So it's limited my fun for the week for sure. Yeah, happy Friday, Charles. I love Fridays. Fridays always gets people pumped up. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there. I guess in the United States, it's a very American holiday.
Hope everybody had a good 4th. Hope everybody, our friends up north, had a good Canada Day. That was earlier in the week, I think. Then everybody else, hope you had a good Thursday, I guess.
It was like first thing in the morning, I was like looking on TV. I'm like, when does Australia do their fireworks? And I'm like, oh, wait. This is the 4th of July. This is ours. This isn't New Year's.
I have no words. I have no words. I can't. I want to see fireworks. Why isn't Australia doing them now?
Okay, before we get to the show, though, staying on 4th of July, I will say this. You know, I move around a lot, unfortunately. That's part of the perils of my world right now. The place I'm in right now, this is the first 4th of July I've been here. And all I had to do last night was go outside. And right there was the big in-town firework.
Oh, nice.
The Jan's Marketplace, they call it, firework display. And it's like the Thousand Oaks official fire. And it's a massive, huge, like 20-minute firework show. And it was like, not only was it right there, but it was like aimed at us. Like, you know, because they're the modern ones are like, they do a smiley face now, right? Like the modern fireworks are directional. And we were, like, exactly lined up. Like, when the smiley face happened, it was like, boom. When the heart happened, it was like, and, it was like, I didn't have to sit in a line. I didn't have to park. I didn't have to sit in a crowd. I'm just hanging out with, like, my neighbors, watching, like, the most spectacular fireworks show ever.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am up on a hill, and where we happen to be situated is right in the middle. We're 360 degrees you can turn and you can see all the major fireworks in that we're nowhere close to them,
right,
but you can definitely see them over the horizon, over the trees and everything. We are right in the middle of everybody, so all the different counties and major fireworks shows, there's like 6 that go off and we can watch them all.
I love
that. If we just stand in the backyard or move around to the front yard, we can see them all. So they're not very impressive because we're not very close, but we can still see them.
Right.
And then we blew up some stuff on our own.
I remember a long day when I was living in Reseda. No, we were in a tall building, and Reseda is in the middle of the valley of Los Angeles, and we went on the rooftop, and it was the same kind of thing. It was like big giant they were far in the distance, but it was like 360 degrees of fireworks. It was really insane. Plus, that was kind of a war zone kind of place to be for 4th of July. Last night was much more mellow.
Right.
Anyway, all right, enough of that. How you been? What have you been driving?
Good, and hello to chat, everybody here. This week has been an exercise in patience with frustration. I don't know how else to describe it. So I had let everybody know that I was working on this iRacing video. Well, when I finally was about halfway through editing, and I noticed, wait, where's the rest of the footage that I captured? Like me talking and some of this other audio and stuff. So I'm like looking through, I found it, and when I dropped it in, it's all corrupted and everything else. And I was like, I am not interested in doing that again. So I punted. I just never mind.
Oh, the cutting room.
Yeah, that was a long one.
The editing room floor is getting thick.
That's so frustrating. And then I had another idea that I kind of kicked, but I wasn't too far into it. But I did end up driving the new cars in Dirt Rally 2.0, which is Lancia 037, and then it's the older Porsche 911, that rally, the older rally car. And those are fun. The Lancia tends to lull you into a false sense of security when you're running. Like, I got this. And all of a sudden you get too brazen with the throttle or drive in too deep and it just loops on you. So it was fun, difficult. What else? What else did we do? Have we talked since we ran the Chicagoland race?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we did that.
That was fun.
That was a fun race. That was really good.
It was 100 times better than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, I thought it was going to be really bad. The way it had practiced, it was like, oh, this is going to be terrible. But I managed to give myself another handicap. I totally, I forgot where my pit stall was. And so as we did the first pit stop, I was rolling in and I slowed down early to make sure that I was going to make it, but in the process didn't figure out or adjust my braking distance, and I just slid right through the pit box. I was running second, back up, and the truck can die, so I'm trying to push in the clutch, hit the brake, and then put it in reverse, and then back up and try not to kill. You can kill it in the pit box because then you just put it in neutral and you can have it fire again. But when you kill it while you're in motion, that's just an extra long step that you have to take to get it fired and then back it up. So I was like trying to do all this crap. And then we took off, and restarts were my friend. We had some pretty wild restarts.
We did.
And then I think I was the catalyst that pushed Mark backwards. The one restart. Oops. Went 3 wide, and I'm like, I'm not lifting. So yeah, that ended up being good. I couldn't chase Climber down. I don't know if it's because me being stupid. The second pit stop we did, I took fuel again, not knowing that I was going to take fuel. I didn't do it on purpose, but it was left over from the pit stop before.
Right.
I was like, oh. So I took on an extra, 8 or 10 gallons. So I don't know if that was the deciding factor or not, but I couldn't catch Climber. Once we got separated and I got into second, I couldn't get a hold of him. But it was a good race. It was fun.
It was a really fun race. I want to applaud the group. I remember at some point, it was hands down one of the quietest in chat races ever. Like, and then at some point, and it was like, and it was a good amount of laps in. It might have been like as many as 30 laps in, and I can't remember who did it, but somebody was like, wow, everyone brought their A game tonight.
Yep.
And it was like we had been caution free, and as soon as they made that comment, I'm like, no, someone said it. And we're going to have a but it was still another 10 or 15 laps till we actually had a caution. And it was a really fun race that did what when you get a race with everybody did bring their A game and it goes caution free, it really lets the story play out. And what I'm so accustomed to in the oval side of racing and in iRacing in particular is that the longest green flag run you see in the first 50% of the race is generally under 10 laps, which just allows...
It's just not quite enough to get the tires to really start falling off.
Yeah, and then the guys who can basically run a qualifying pace during the race can dominate the race all day long in that circumstance. And like in the trucks in particular, for me, I'm a long run truck driver. Like, give me the trucks and test the tires and I might win the race. But if it's a sprint race, I'm not going to be the guy. I don't even like pushing it on cold tires, and I love the race to come to me. So that one just was like so close. I was like, man, I could win this one. The way today's playing out, and I started at the back even, and I'm like, I think I can win today's race. I just needed to stay green. And just when it started getting good, we got our yellow, and then we had a couple more in the end, but it was all good long runs. And
yeah, and then we had a good long We had a good long run in the center, one at the end, one at the beginning. So
Yeah.
I think the first caution didn't happen until almost 20 laps. It was like lap 17 or 18, which was good enough for the tires to really start taking a hit. So that
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
really think everybody did a good job, and I enjoyed that one. That
Yep.
was a really good race.
Yep.
What else did I do? I tried the new. Oh, and thanks, Factory Life managed to find and listen to my song. I was alerted to Tyson alerted me to a change in the non-wing sprint car that they made in iRacing. So I tried that, and apparently when this update released, they had changed something because the dirt has been changing over time.
Mm-hmm.
They've changed the grip level and some things with the dirt, so they felt it was necessary to adjust the non-wing car. Now, it wasn't terribly correct, but it was close enough. And like when I helped him fix it in the very beginning, that was probably the most accurate the car was, and not just because of me, but I gave the foundation for what I found needed to be changed. It happened to be chassis flex, which is what the problem was. They weren't allowing enough chassis flex with the car. And then I think Chase or one of the other non-wing guys came in and did a couple refinements with it. And to me, that's what non-wing driving is. When the track's hooked up, you're up on two wheels, you're pulling wheel stands. And then when the track is slick, man, you are really having to work the throttle. And so it's kind of stayed that way for better or for worse. You couldn't really bike the car anymore, so some of the grip level was lost. But it still was okay. And I guess they made a change and people hated it for this build. So then last week, I believe it was last week, they changed it again. And I tried it and I'm like, I don't understand why. They still have my contact info. But B,
you don't understand that?
I don't understand.
But you should know they threw it away.
You would think they would like reach out at a certain point, but maybe nobody cares. And B, it was like somebody that got used to running the winged sprint car tried to fix the non-wing sprint car, because some of the setups that they're using are not great. They've got odd shot combinations. They've got, I don't know, and how they've changed the car is it's got a ton of left rear drive. So that's typically how a wing car drives, is it sits on the left rear because of all the aero from the wings. Well, the non-wing car doesn't have that, but they've got it so where, man, it's really driving off the left rear, and it's got still a little, in my opinion, a little too much forward bite still, just a hair. And they lost a little bit of the right rear side bite going in and through the corner. So like on initial turn in, when the car kind of unloads and sits on the right rear, it skates too far, in my opinion. It should be grabbing the track. So that I was going to do a video on that.
So does it mean like it's driving like it's always a slicker track than it really, like when it's a grippier track, that thing should be able to bite more and flex the chassis more and start doing that two-wheeled stuff?
It's kind of like an odd mix of everything. So on entry, to me, the car isn't hooked up enough. But on exit, middle and exit, the car is too hooked up. So I'm not sure what they played with. I think they said aero. I'm not sure if they played with any of the tires. What I found interesting was when we were doing it, the tires are in blocks across the surface, and then they adjust those to give longitude and latitude traction. So whichever way the tire moves, and then there's and then there's other factors that go into that. But I found that we were doing when we were initially making the sprint car, the wing car, we were playing a lot with those patterns. So I don't know if they changed something in there, but it was definitely, it's okay to drive. It's just not correct.
Right.
So somebody that doesn't know any better would think that that's the way it's supposed to drive, because you can drive it. It's just, that's not the way the cars drive. And I still have that same criticism actually especially with the 410 wing car. It should be a little more violent. Um, but I guess they're trying to change it because the USAC series is going to come out. They've got a pro series for the USAC non-wing cars. I guess that's going to come. So
Right.
and then after that, I had somebody reach out that does some mods for AC for NASCAR oval stuff, and I helped them with some of their AI, which was fun
Hey.
because they did Talladega, and I'm sure it's a conversion. But I did Talladega, and I got those things pack racing going 3 wide, and it's actually pretty fun. I know that the stock car rules aren't there. You know, we don't have a yellow flag, and we do a standing start and all that. But if you kind of just and the cars don't pit well on ovals, it's just the way the AI reads.
Right.
So how far it reads and over it. So it kind of plays a little funky, and you can kind of game them if you're doing pit stops. But if you just do a full tank run, don't worry about a pit stop. It's
It's some
pretty
fun
good.
racing.
It was pretty good. So that's good. And then I did they had North Wilkesboro because they have like a 98 mod,
Uh-huh.
NASCAR 98 mod, which is pretty cool looking. And so I did North Wilkesboro, and that was pretty fun. For a short track, they drive pretty good. Their AI does not like short stuff like that. It's pretty difficult for them, but this one works pretty well.
Billy the AI Whisperer Strange.
I'm just using the tools that are in there. That's it. But yeah,
but you have the patience to massage it, and that's what it takes. It's not just
it
throwing
does.
it. It's
Well, like Talladega was fairly easy. I just had to figure out a couple things. North Wilkesboro took me longer because they were trying to drive up on the apron, which unloads the cars, and the AI doesn't like that. So you kind of have to figure out how to massage the line that they're using and still get them to take a fast line. So it's fun.
right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, and other than that, I built my PC. It's actually, you can't see it. It's behind the microphone, back there. I got it all built. I'm still waiting for my graphics card though. Everything else is done.
At least
My
that just drops
GPU.
in. You just pop that in,
Yes.
and
Oh, well, I had the
well,
silly idea that this weekend or yesterday, since it was kind of a off day, I was gonna, even without the graphics card, I was like, oh well, it still has the integrated. I'll just plug in and just get things loaded, and then when my graphic card comes, then it's just plug in and away I go.
right.
I forgot this chipset doesn't have an integrated
Uh,
graphics, so like I thought I did something wrong. So everything lights up and all. I was like, why am I not getting a picture? What did I do wrong? And then I start reading. I'm like, oh, you dummy! This doesn't have a freaking integrated
yeah.
chip. Well, never mind.
So
So
when
that
do
was
you
it.
get the card?
Monday.
Oh, it's a long wait.
Yeah, I got delayed. I was like, you jerks. Everything else came sooner than when it was said it was going to. But
Right.
of course, that doesn't. It actually got delayed. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
oh man.
When I did my build, it came all in the wrong order too. It was like, if I could have got this and this and that. Anyway, I'm not a
Yeah.
patient man too, so when
This is killing me. I was all fired up, ready to go, and then delayed. Yeah, I got a
Awesome.
2700 Pelican. Yeah. So how about you?
It's gonna be tough for me to remember. This week's been very strange. So the truck race, which we already talked about on Friday, that was awesome. Saturday we did some project cars, which was a lot of fun. Just me and some of the pit crews, some of the patron guys. And then Saturday I did spa practice for the 24-hour spa coming up. So this is back to the Mercedes, back to the Merc, and in the GT3 class, and was running at Spa, and I did okay. Not great, not bad at all, but not great. And it reminded me of one of those things, and I guess we're gonna take a little diversion on this thought here, but one of the things that you gotta figure in sim racing, I feel like there are things that they can give us that they don't because they want to maintain being grounded in this reality of being real life racing. And I'm to the point now where I've accepted our parallel to real life and don't want or need it to be any more than it is. And I'm not unrealistic about that we're still a game. So as much as we parallel motorsport, let's face it, we still parallel Call of Duty because we're a game. And so I'm thinking Spa, and it takes friggin' forever to get around Spa. So if you're working on something that's on the back half, and trying to perfect something back there, it's
I know where you're going with this. Yep.
And I just think, Gran Turismo way back when had those challenges, and it's like, cool. So you tell it, I want to work Sector 3, and this is my wish list. And even something as iRacing, take note. It's like, yes, it's okay. You're still a game, iRacing. You're not a motorsport. You're a game. I want to program Sector 3 so it can look at my optimal, and it can take my ghost lap. It already records it, and I can play against it in single-player mode anyway. And I want it to start me at the driving position where I start Sector 2 on an optimal at that speed and let me complete Sector 2. And if I only selected Sector 2, I want it to end at the beginning of Sector 3. And then I want it to give me my time and ask me if I'd like to redo it again. And if I could do that, I could become Superman at every track on Earth. I think it would be fun. So when we're always talking about fun factor elements,
I think it would be helpful.
And I think it'd be super helpful, especially on the long tracks. Like think about like Nürburgring, Nordschleife.
Well, for all the touting we do of being simulation and stuff like that, I always think that's kind of funny because we really don't step into the realm of true simulation. We don't have damage that usually cripples the car in one hit.
Right.
Even just a brush against the wall with an open wheel car will end your day, right? Or we don't have tracks that used to have gravel traps.
Right.
And you'd be done.
You'd be stuck. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be stuck. Things of that nature, we still have not gotten to that level. And I don't know that it's needed, to be honest. I don't know that we actually need to go there because I think it would turn a lot of people off more than a lot of the elements might already.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be fun to try and do that stuff maybe offline. But when you practice all week, do you really want something like that ending your day?
Right.
So that's kind of a hard thing to justify.
Well, like if you need a better example to take it deeper, like imagine, and some games have dabbled with it, but like random malfunctions or can you imagine if you were doing well on a game and it's like F you game, we're not really racing. My crew didn't screw up.
Yeah, and I didn't like smash a curb and put bust the oil pan or something silly or knock a bolt off of a shock mount or something silly.
Yeah.
See, Laser Cutter. He put gravel traps that you got stuck in when he did Brands Hatch for Rfactor 1 and had nothing but complaints. And and that's the thing is you think you want it's just like weather, man. You think you want these things, but then when you actually put them in play and they act the way they're supposed to, then most people go, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And I get it. The whole point is, look, if you want to be realistic in the fact that, I worked a week on my race car and then went and just annihilated the rear end in qualifying.
Right.
And that cost me a good $1,200 at least. How realistic do you want this? Do you really want to work on something all week for a multiplayer race and then have a tiny thing strip you away where, if you had a major crash, but the hit that I took wasn't a huge hit.
Right.
So in a sim, it wouldn't have done that much damage.
Sim racing is motorsport in a vacuum at absolute zero. Right. It's in like these conditions that can never happen. But and that's great. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. And again, that's where I started kind of with, we are a parallel to these things, but we are not them. Anyway, so Spa. Yeah, I ran Spa, and I need more laps in that car. I'm quite confident. It's one of those tracks, though, that's so hard to be perfect on a long track.
I missed it. You're running the AMG?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things that I think for some drivers can be really frustrating is, you work a small track, and you can nail a perfect lap here and there every 10 laps or so. But at Spa, it might take you 30 or 40 laps to get a perfect lap, and it's just the amount of time and corners. It was fun. And getting ahead of the game, preparing for that race coming up, like still over a month away, I think. I hope.
You're like, maybe.
And then I did some practice. I am joining Stan and Moses, Stand On It, Moses Choi, two guys that we've done a lot of endurance races with. We're going to run a 3-man team in the VEC, Virtual Endurance Championships, in the HPD. So I'm like last minute trying to get my S together and
nice
hook up. Yeah, it just sounded like something a little different, something fun. Not too extensive of a race calendar, which is something that's starting to. I don't have time for an extensive race calendar, I'm learning. So, but I got to do that as well.
That sounds good.
And then came Sunday. That was everything leading up to Sunday. And then Sunday morning, I did. So the SImpit hit 40,000 subscribers. Thank you, everybody, if you're a subscriber. Thank you very much. If you're not, please subscribe to the show. We finally hit 40,000 subs, and I, a while ago, had started the swear jar, we were calling it, where every time I swore on a live stream, I would do 10 push-ups. And because I did a few streams like a couple during like racing moments.
He was banking them.
Yes. And I'm actually still 20 in the hole, if I'm going to be honest. But let's not talk about that today.
Don't worry. We've got a tab going.
So as a joke, I had said during one stream, hey, when I hit 40,000, I'll do 100 push-ups. And a few too many people heard me say it and reminded me of it. So Sunday morning was D-Day. Sunday morning, I decided I'd do 100 push-ups. And that was a dumb idea. It nearly killed me. And I, to this day, am sore. I, to this day, am not sleeping well. And it wiped out all of my desire to touch a force feedback direct drive steering wheel for pretty much the whole week. So that wiped out the rest of my week as far as driving goes.
Better roll out. You better start stretching.
Yeah, now I need to actually get active about doing that. The other thing, I'm not sure if anybody else ever done this or experienced it, and it could be placebo effect in my head. I swear that I have felt like a low grade of being ill, like nausea, for like this whole week too. And I think it's because if you don't work out or do anything for like a decade... and then you do that, like all of these toxins that have been like soaking in your muscles get released into your system. So I like feel like I've been through like a whole attack on my body from doing push-ups. I'm not sure if it's just coincidental timing.
I can't say that I've ever had that happen, but I believe what you say. Yeah, Tom Jones push-up sickness.
I'm sick of push-ups, that's for sure. So I played VR. So I did, I had bought a Steam sale. I racked up a bunch of VR games, and I've just been playing a lot of VR, a lot of shooter games.
Oh, you mentioned the Steam sale. I did a thing. I'm not proud of it, but it was too good of a sale for me to pass up. So, oh man. My curiosity got the better of me, and I bought Dakar 19 because it was on sale for like $18.
No way.
I did. I bought Dakar 18, so I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna check. I got 2 weeks and 2 hours, as we all know, to try it before I want to return it. But at $18, it's kind of like I might just throw a Hail Mary and give it a little bit longer than that just to see if I end up enjoying it. I'm not optimistic, but I am gonna try it with the wheel just to see how awful it is, and then I'll probably switch to a gamepad to see if I like that more and if there's actually some systems in there that are worth noting, because there are, for all the bad that it's gotten, there are a couple things in there that people are noting that it does well. So I'd like to see those because it's not something we normally get in any, even even if you want to compare this to on the level of like a Forza or something like that, we don't get those kinds of systems even at that level.
Right.
So I'd like to see what it does. And at $18, it was kind of like, that's really hard to pass up for my curiosity. Like it just got the better of me.
Lenny2 said he got RF2 for €15 after watching your tattoos video.
Oh, sweet. I again and what was it? Car Heroes. Yeah, thanks. He watched the review as well. I hope that helped. I hope that gave people, after being so negative about F1 2019, it wasn't like I was trying to be super positive about the Rfactor 2 stuff. It was just it was impressive.
It's just so weird. Oh, I have to take this call.
What?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
That people said I was long-winded anyways, so and I like to hear myself talk, so I guess I'll just talk to you guys. So, right on. Well, I mean, I hope you felt like it was worth your money if you ended up purchasing or you ended up purchasing RF2. I enjoy it. It doesn't have a real long tail for me, but if you want to jump in and just do a race, there's leagues you can get involved with that are really good as well. But it seems for a while there I was kind of sour on it, but the last probably maybe a year, less than a year, they've really done some great updates to cars and tweaks to whatever their formula is for physics and how the tire works, and then the tracks. So that Rfactor 2 video, I don't know. It really enjoyed how the cars gave me that feeling of driving a race car and how it interacted with the track itself. Oh, right on. Well, cool. I'm glad people enjoyed it and enjoyed it enough at least to give Rfactor 2 a shot. And then I also did one other purchase. Again, because the curiosity part of me came out. I did. Wait. So I play video games anyways, so I play all kinds of stuff other than sim racing. And I just happened to look at the Monster Jam. I looked at the Monster Jam title and I was just like, oh, what the hell? So I purchased that and I actually played a couple hours of that. It's okay. I didn't expect much from it. It's got some quirks to it, but it's kind of fun. The Leisure Suit. I've never tried Leisure Suit Larry. Never did it. Double clutch. I looked at Steel Titans 2, man. I did. I was just like, man, I haven't played a monster truck game. Look, I grew up with the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, so I have all these different, arcade-ish racing memories. And I remember playing like the Bigfoot and monster truck games from that era. And I was kind of like, man, I kind of feel like I just want to jump some stuff. And I don't know. It got the better of me. It's not terribly expensive. It was on sale too. So for what it is, so far, it seems fine. I do like the progression. It does some unlocks. So you unlock the trucks as you go. People were saying it was grindy. I haven't found it that grindy, but I am not that far into it either. American, yeah. Felix, I've tried American Truck Simulator. And by the way, thanks. He mentioned listening to the podcast. You can catch that on Apple Podcasts. What is it? Stitcher and SoundCloud. We're up to, this is episode 28. But yeah, I've played ATS. I enjoy ATS. What I like doing in ATS is putting on a podcast if I can't figure out what to drive, but I want to drive something. Oh, no, man, I always have pants on unless other activities dictate that I do not have pants on. So I like ATS for if I can't figure out what to drive, I turn that on, put on a podcast, and just kind of cruise. I like that for something relaxing. Like it's just kind of, if I can't figure out what I want to do, I play ATS. Scorpion 2. No, I have not tried the Seattle mod. I saw Jimmy do that, and I was like, I kind of want to try that. It looks cool. Like it of course brings back all the nostalgia from Gran Turismo 2. I remember playing Gran Turismo 2 and just being in awe of like all the new tracks that they had and all the new cars. I was very excited. And this year is the first, or this console generation. I think Tom had mentioned it on your live stream before, one of your live streams. This particular generation is the first generation, if I'm not mistaken, that doesn't have at least 2 GT titles. So Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2 was on the PS1. And then you had GT3 and GT4. There was also like Prologue was, so GT3 and GT4 were on PS2, and then you had GT5 and 6 on PS3, and then there was like a Prologue, and there was some other things. Like on the PS2, they did Tourist Trophy, which was a great motorcycle game, by the way.
Yes.
But this is the first generation that doesn't, I believe, is not going to have before the next console release, at least, because they might release the next Gran Turismo on PlayStation 5 or whatever that's going to be and still release it on the PS4. But in terms of before the next console comes out, before that next life cycle comes out, this is only going to have one Gran Turismo in it, which I found interesting. Usually it's like Gran Turismo 6. At least they snuck in one. That might have been.
That's
GT6 was right before, or was it right at? Now I'm not sure. Was it right before or right after? Now I need to correct myself. GT6 might have been when PlayStation 4 released. I'll have to look at the release date now.
It might have been the launch title for the PlayStation 4.
Well, it didn't get released on the PlayStation 4, but it might have been released.
Okay.
I digress. A point that is not at all relevant.
To back you up on that thinking, though, one thing I've been saying about Gran Turismo is that their timeline seems to have nothing to do with the PlayStation. So just like are on an agenda of their own that seems to have nothing to do with just making money, seems nothing to do with like timing it with like annual, like, oh well, it's this year time to release our next version. They're just sort of like, hey, we make it when we're ready. The Paul Masson commercial, if you're old enough to remember him, but we'll sell no wine before it's time. And it's like, that's, to me, that's sort of the polyphony philosophy when it comes to Gran Turismo. And when they do make a new one, it's usually, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, I don't need I would pre-order the next Gran Turismo with their pattern and reputation of titles. Like, that's one title that if they're like, oh, you get the bonus car, I'll take it.
I didn't play this Gran Turismo as much just because I want more of the CarPG, for lack of a better term.
Right.
That's what I want out of that title. I don't need what they're doing, even though I enjoy the cars. Like I said, I need to actually get back and try it since they've done a bunch of updates to the physics and stuff. But this is probably my least played out of all of them that I've ever done. So hopefully it sounds like they might get back to going the other direction.
I have to say the same, by the way. I've played least of this version. Same thing with this batch of Forza and Horizon. So
ever since Forza 5, I fell off because I just did not like what they were doing with I could see the direction that they were going, and I just didn't like what they were doing with the franchise. 3 and 4 and Forza were the best.
Yeah.
2 was a lot of fun. Forza Motorsport, the initial one, was fun in its own way, but I think it had a lot of physics oddities in it. But as they progressed, and when it hit 3 and 4 was really, in my opinion, when it hit its stride.
Right.
And then when 5 hit, it was just like, why did you guys change so much what you were doing? And you didn't even change things that were questionable. You changed things that were good into things that I don't like anymore. So I don't know.
All right.
I was trying to find things to talk about.
Yeah. So I played a bunch of VR shooter games and had some fun. Played Payday 2 with like our gang of friends, and that was super fun. It's like a heist game, like the movie Heat. It's like playing the movie Heat. you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just running around shooting everything in sight and trying to make off with the loot. And then the only thing I'll mention on my week before we move on to the news is Wednesday's train wreck of a show. Like I said, it's been a rough week. Wednesday's pit stop, the fire alarm company started doing fire testing at 9:01. My show started at 9. And every 30 seconds, a fire alarm would go off.
Timing is everything.
And my dog was losing his mind, which then means that I start to lose my mind. And so I did a 30-minute show with, like, the most annoying world going on. And I was all out of sorts. So I apologize for that show. I almost was just going to pull the plug. But in the end, I was just like, well, I don't smell smoke, because I didn't remember there was a fire alarm. I'm like, I don't smell smoke. I have all the cameras here for the entire building. There's a closet, so I can go look at a screen and see 30 cameras, and I'm like, I don't see anything going on that I need to be alarmed.
Maybe you should explain why.
My brother's the manager,
There you go. Because it kind of sounds weird. It kind of sounds like you're running some sort of underground.
Anyway, that's my other YouTube channel, by the way. We just hit 1 million subscribers. Oh my god. Thank you for making me clarify that. So that was the end of my week. That was the end of my week, and that pretty much takes us to today, because yesterday was a holiday and I didn't do anything. I played VR and I waited for fireworks. And I looked for international coverage of fireworks that weren't happening.
That's so hysterical. Yeah, yesterday Stranger Things 3 came out, and my kids, we all like to watch it, so the whole family got together and started watching Stranger Things 3. So that was good as well.
All right.
I think that's it.
On with the news. On with the news. All right. I guess this is a big update week, really. There are a few stories that relate to update. The first one being Assetto Corsa Competizione version 1.0.5 has been released. Everyone uses different numbering systems. I think that's always kind of interesting. Bunch of different things. Potential fix for failure to start the game with a particular combination of characters in this username. Rating and multiplayer tweaks and changes, and a whole list of things there. Gameplay.
They've got a whole slew of fixes for multiplayer in the rating system.
Yeah, that's good. 15.
I don't know that it's actually changing the rating system that we would like them to change, but they are tweaking the rating system.
Yeah, which is good. And I mean, and hopefully there'll be plenty more to come out of them with that title. I mean, we talk about that all the time. The amount of support each named title gets. Kind of up in the air where we stand with Kunos. Hey!
Another fire! Fire!
Yeah,
they had some physics improvements and tweaks. They also did a tweak to the AI, some audio. So...
Physics? Physics?
Yeah, they well, right here it says they fixed the Mercedes engine damage, raising too much at engine limiter, additional damage tweaks for the Audi R8, Lamborghini Huracan, and the BMW M6, fixed Honda NSX too high fuel consumption, Honda NSX AI tweaks. That's too many acronyms together. Fixed missing Porsche aggressive Nürburgring setup, and fix the AstroTurf grip level at some locations on Spa. So I would say quit going off the track.
The opposite of gravel track. AstroTurf.
But yeah, they're true to Kuno's form, and good on them. They are making a bunch of fixes, and they're releasing them at a fairly frequent rate. So maybe someday we'll get the sim that we all hoped it would be.
Dave Blair coming in with $10 with a shout out to Stan Donnet and his paint jobs.
Stan, oh snap!
Yes, almost everything I drive. Joa paints a car for me here and there. Stan has been doing the brunt of the work. Fine painter. All right, what else? What else we got, Billy?
What else? Indeed, we've got some of my favorite. This is going to be a running joke, just like Heat 3. F1 2019 patch notes version 1.04 is out. and just a few things. It's out on Steam and PlayStation 4. Xbox is always a little behind just because of their approval process. So fix a crash screen scene with those of you still running a 9 series NVIDIA graphics card, specifically the 970, running the DX12 executable, which is impressive if you can do that. Fixed and I'm just kind of putting that together in my head, like you're trying to run DX12 with a 970.
That's the thing. If I'm on the 970, I probably didn't even try.
Right?
But okay.
Fixed an issue that could cause frame rate to be lower than expected during gameplay after viewing multiple errors in the showroom. I'm assuming that means cars. Numerous other stability. I always like that, the catch-all at the very end. And we did a bunch of other stuff that we really don't feel like explaining.
Yeah.
So anyway, you've got some updates for those of you that like F1 2019. I would not be one of them.
The other joke, I don't know if you saw it in the chat, was that during the Steam sale, you weren't convinced to rebuy F1 2019, were you?
Now, did they mark it down on the Steam sale? I didn't even look. That's hilarious.
If you return a game and then buy it again, can you return it a second time?
I don't know that there's a limit. I don't know. Maybe after so many times they'll get tired of you being something. And I mean, they have to at some point stop you, because can you imagine like buying and then returning it, but keeping your game progress and then like buying it again and then starting from where you left off?
Yeah, I play it every 3 months. I play another 2 weeks of it. Well, 2 hours, I guess. Yeah, it's not a lot of time that you could really rack up though. But maybe enough for F1 2019.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I made my peace. I stand by my decision, which is funny because that particular video has been like my most popular by far, and I got my like to dislike ratio is much higher on that video than my other ones. Usually I'm like at a 98, 97, thumbs up. And this one's like at 66, 67. Fair enough to say that I annoyed some people with my comment, my video, whichever way it went. I have no idea. It's so funny because the thumbs down and the thumbs up are so ambiguous because they don't actually tell you what people liked or what people don't like.
Right. Did they not like your presentation, or did they not like the game as well? It could have been just.
They thought I was complaining. They thought I got a few comments that they thought I was complaining that I just didn't get a free copy. I'm like, no, I don't have to worry about the free copy. I'm fine. That's okay. Somebody else can have the free copy. It doesn't bother me. But again, it was like, I felt like I should disclose that because, hey, if I've got to disclose per FCC when I do get a free copy, then I'm going to say when I don't get a free copy, when I actually have to pay for it. So I don't know. It's just interesting. I think that thumbs up, thumbs down it gives you a good metric overall, but it doesn't help you to determine like, what did they not like about the video? Are they just mad because I just didn't like F1 2019, or was there something specific that they didn't like?
I think that's one of those things where people might agree with you and hit thumbs up, thumbs down.
That happens too. Yes, people often agree with what you're saying, but because you're not liking the thing that you're talking about, they give it a thumbs down in agreement with they don't like the thing that you're talking about.
I believe that's why Facebook invented the other things you could do, because like you'd post, oh, my father passed away. Well, people can't thumbs up that your father passed away, right? That seems wrong. And then thumbs down is, well, obviously that's not right. I think, it's the same sort of thing. They need more markings. It's more complex than thumbs up, thumbs down now. Sorry, people.
Yeah.
We've evolved. You need...
I think that they could have a better system, but that's a whole nother topic.
How about I agree? There's so many people who are doing opinion.
Then you're going to get everybody on a rating board, right? 1 to 5. How much do you agree with it? Jeez. Kev Edwards, I have not gotten to try WRC 8 yet. I'm hoping that maybe they'll let me try it a little early, but I'm not counting on it. I don't even know that I'll get a press copy out of them, but that's fine. I will still pick it up and try it because I am looking forward to WRC 8.
we should. I will work to help. I'm gonna bring you in. I'm pretty tight with those guys now because I worked E3. So cross our fingers. Hopefully, I can get us both. I'll talk to them,
Nice.
and I'll bring. I'm gonna tell them I really like you in. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Well, real quick, like Devin says, a lot of people don't understand the like system. So the thumbs up, thumbs down, it's an interaction metric. So all YouTube cares about is you're interacting with it. They don't care if it's thumbs up or thumbs down. So I like it. Some people thumbs down because they think it hurts the creator. And nope, it's the other way around. If you give a thumbs down, you're better off not commenting. You're better off not doing any sort of thumbs up or thumbs down with it. Just leave it alone, because that actually hurts more than you making a negative comment or you leaving a thumbs down.
Right.
Because YouTube doesn't care. It just keeps boosting it and you can see it. The evidence is with my video. Like that one just keeps going and going and going because the interaction is so high with that video.
Yeah. Kev, I was on many factors. I was very keen on it, but I'm still afraid of what we might get force feedback wise. I'm finding
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm holding out hope. I'm crossing my fingers, even if it's so. Running the in Dirt Rally 2.0, running the Lancia and the Porsche that just came out, I had not really tried the new force feedback. I tried it a little bit. It seems to vary from location. So I tried it at Australia, and man, it's really good. Like there's a lot of information going on. And then I tried it at like New Zealand, and I don't know if because they're actually saying it's a different type of surface. In other words, maybe it's more sandy or something.
Right.
But the force feedback isn't as strong in New Zealand as it is in Australia, and you're not getting the same level of detail. And the tarmac force feedback is still, but even if we got something in that realm for WRC8, I would be okay with that. I know it's not the best, but kudos to Codemasters for at least making an improvement. It's a noticeable improvement. So even if WRC went that direction from where they were, they'd be way better off leaving it as is.
Yes. And the other thing is, when I drove it, again, this is still like when you're driving a certain title, like even this picture here of Codemasters, it says work in progress. When they're still putting that script on, it means it really is. I mean, they don't want to put that up, right? It doesn't look pretty usually, in my opinion. So, I'm kind of holding out on that. The other is, under the circumstances at E3, for the most part, they had taken over and came in and did their settings. Like one of their guys came in and sat down and did what he liked for the thing. And so it wasn't until the third day that I jumped in the morning and I'm like, I'm just going to tweak this real quick and see for myself, and made a few changes. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, now we're driving. But it was like I got only like one quick run that way, and then I had to turn it back over to the public. And I left it that way for the rest of the day, by the way. I didn't change it back.
Well, and we kind of went through something similar when we did ACC for, last year when I did the Thrustmaster deal. Is I kind of went, is this really how you guys want this to be? Again, I am not a huge force feedback aficionado, but I can recognize what people do and do not want, that like force feedback more than I do.
Right.
And so I can recognize what that is. And I often am curious what these developers are using and what their familiarity is with what they're using to inform them how the force feedback should be implemented, because it's kind of like, you're missing things. How do you miss certain things?
Yeah.
With that, I don't know. I mean, we're far enough along now that the consumer grade wheels are much more popular even than 5 years ago. So we're in this whole, in my opinion, we're in this whole other state with driving wheels, right? So it's like, some of the industry, not all of it, but some of the industry is still trying to figure out and come to terms with what should and should not be.
Right.
I don't know.
Yep. I agree. And again, the games that are multi-platform seem to have more trouble in that area. But again, if you're multi-platform, you have to assume that more people are using a hand controller than a steering wheel. Like, that's one thing iRacing doesn't have to contend with. Like, they don't have to think. Like, yes, somebody can map a controller and use it, but they don't have to make any consideration in their sim whatsoever for that person. Like, if someone called their customer service line and was like, yeah,
sure,
I'm using a controller and I'm just not getting the feel I want, they'd be like, well, then get a wheel, dude. I don't think they'd be shy about doing that. But it coming from the other direction, we are the ones who are like, well, can you help us out with what we're getting in our expensive steering wheels bought for this type of game? And I feel like the multi-platform ones are the ones that are constantly on that list of, it's not
I just have a problem when people are touting they are realistic. A developer is touting it's realistic or simulation like. Okay, so NASCAR Heat, they've said it's not quite simulation. Like they're not really shooting for that. So I don't expect as much out of that, right? I just expect the force feedback just to give me a semblance of weight and a couple things, and that's fine. If you are letting me know beforehand that's not what you're shooting for, I'm good.
Right.
I will take it for what it is. But if you're F1 2019, Forza Motorsport 7, GT Sport, Dirt Rally 2, anything that transfers over to PC from console, and you're touting it as this is supposed to be like amazing and this is supposed to, it's realistic and all that, I'm going to expect more from you.
Yep.
And that's what I guess that's my point is that in doing those things, why are those boxes not being ticked?
Right. Yeah, that's totally fair.
So,
it's the same way I go into a review thinking in that same exact mindset. It's like, well, if they're telling me it's real, then you better show up being real, right? Like,
well, and then you get things that surprise you, a la Wreckfest, right? I don't think they ever said, hey, this is going to be amazing with the wheels. So, hey, if it just works, that'll be great. And then you get in there and like, wow, this is actually not bad. This is pretty good.
When I bought Wreckfest, I expected no different or better than Road Rash or Road Redemption's the modern version. I expected no different than Twisted Metal or, and I got really fun to drive force feedback. Like, they totally surprised me. And, when you don't oversell, it's easy to deliver. When you oversell, it's the other way around.
See, Wreckfest is what my parents call my life. That's funny.
All right, on with the news. News.
Sorry. I guess this is another day of, as people put in the F1 2019 video, Billy likes to hear himself talk.
So now, if you had saved even one screenshot in the 2 hours of ownership in your F1 2019, you could enter the McLaren Shadow Formula One game contest they're doing. Reply with your most it would have to be in the McLaren too, so it wouldn't.
Quick, somebody give me a screenshot so I can get the McLaren hat.
You can get a McLaren hat, McLaren Shadow cap. I guess that's, I'm showing my age, calling it a hat. It's called a cap now. Rep the team with an awesome piece of swag.
I got swagger.
I don't have a picture of the hat. I'd like a picture of the hat.
Right? They don't. It's like Bethesda all over again. They're gonna swap you out for a lower quality hat.
And didn't they do? I mean, sometimes when they've done this, they've been like autographed.
Well, that would be cool if you got it autographed.
Yeah.
But they don't say that, do they?
No. Okay. I don't think so. Nope. Just send them a screenshot though. So they have if you'll find out on their Twitter feed. This isn't big news. All right, let's move along. Next up. All right. This is good. You want it?
Yeah, Grid has been delayed, everybody. Those of you looking forward to Grid, it has now been delayed till October 11th. Wasn't it September?
Yes, I believe so.
So I think it's delayed by a couple weeks or maybe even a month, but I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks. And before the show, Shaun had to point this out to me that the explanation is interesting. Codemasters has explained that the delay has been made to give added exposure to a game we're hugely excited about.
What? I had read this a couple times before this particular motorsport article. So I saw one that was coming off of the Lee Mathers E3 thing. You know, they're making a big deal about Codemasters at E3, and I'm like, Codemasters wasn't at E3. Lee Mathers
they
did.
Must have been in one of those private, like that one area that's all the like Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't on the showroom floor. They had a private room that you went in and saw things.
Yeah, perhaps you would have thought they'd reach out to me, being that. Then again, Codemasters doesn't reach out to me anymore. But they made this big deal, and it's like, well, E3, they weren't at E3 for the public's sake, and then Lee Mathers did an interview with like one of the, Twitch or whatever, whoever was streaming the whole interview thing from E3. And it was like, oh, everyone's so excited. And I'm like, but what's to be excited about? You've showed the same clips that I've seen on YouTube, right? You didn't have anything new. You didn't have anything playable. And they're making all this, like, everyone's so excited about Grid. And I am excited about Grid, but I'm also
me too.
A little afraid that it's not what I'm hoping Grid is going to be. Like, if Wreckfest came out tomorrow with a game that they're like, USAC winged sprints, I'd be like, ooh, I don't know. I was kind of hoping for Wreckfest too. Now, if they're going to make both, hey, you're allowed to reach out and do different things. But, like, Grid was a certain type of game. Like I would go as far as to almost call Grid a cult classic, right? Because there are so many sim racers who hold it near and dear for that special niche it created.
I could understand that.
And it's like, well, every photo I see is of the Ferrari, right, in full GT3 trim. And it's like, I thought this was going to be like Cody's Wreckfest, right?
Right. So that brings up an interesting point is, how much of the same thing are we going to get? How much of a GT3 car are we going to, how can we use? And Mike from Sim Racing 604 did an interesting video on if ACC is failing or not, if it's losing participation. And so he kind of went through the steps and showed the graphs, and it's taken a significant hit to its player base. And then we can all theorize and speculate why that is. One of the thoughts was it doesn't really do anything that special. It doesn't do anything that any other sim doesn't do already.
Right.
So then you're left with pretty graphics and a great physics model. What else is there to draw you to it or to keep you playing that versus something else that you are already established in, right?
Yes.
So is that part of the problem? Like the honeymoon phase is worn off, or is it, I think it's several things, to be clear. I don't think it's particularly that one thing. I think their marketing thing really hurt them with releasing in early access. That's my biggest thing. It's what I said from the beginning. Be careful pre-order or buying this game early. Just because to me, it doesn't make any sense to release a game with such a limited scope and then build it up as it goes along. You miss that day one explosion for people buying in, because there's a lot of people that don't want to buy early access stuff because it's not a complete title. They'll wait till you're done.
Right.
Till 1.0. So I think that hurt it. I think several other things have hurt it. The marketing and the speak has also hurt it. But to your point, I hope that remnants, at least from the original Grid series, because I did like the first Grid, and I like Grid Autosport. Actually, Autosport was a little more motorsport oriented, but they kind of defined that with the Autosport title. It wasn't 3. So if they can use those elements, especially from the first Grid, I think they'll be doing good. The one thing I'm not seeing in Grid that was, I thought, a big player that made it stand out was the drifting. in the original Grid. That was actually pretty good for a console game. That was actually pretty good. I don't think I've seen them mention anything.
No, I'm seeing touring,
about drifting,
touring tuner, stock, GT, Formula J, prototypes, and Group 7 specials. Formula J is going to be open wheeled. My fear is that with Grid, you had the Codemasters title that was built to be fun. Like, just here's the name. Like, obviously it's going to be a motorsport grounded game, but when Codemasters has always been very regimented in their disciplines, Formula One, boom. Dirt was a little more in the fun, but they still had sort of a path once they got going with the titles. And then Grid represented sort of fun, and it's like, if you're Codemaster, here's what you could have done, Codemaster, the mighty Codemasters. Not to turn it into a bash Codemasters Day, because I really do love what they do too. They could have made a GT3 or another racing sim that was a step away from Formula One, closed tin tops. Let's just say, and they could have still kept Grid. Like, this was actually an opportunity to create another title if you wanted it, versus roll over your old name that maybe had a different path.
So again, that's kind of, Mike had alluded to, calling ACC with Assetto Corsa in the title was probably a bad marketing move.
Right.
Just like you're talking about Grid.
Yep.
If they change the formula too much,
yep,
you no longer have the essence of Grid anymore. And I think that
it could have just been
a major factor in Assetto Corsa Competizione, because you're using something. There's a reason that even when major franchises in just the video game industry take a big divergence, they will hold on to that original IP and use that IP name,
right,
so that it draws people in.
Yep.
But then that usually pisses people off, because you took a complete, this is not this.
You can't take that big of a turn with a title like that.
I think ACC was too big of a left turn for most people that really loved all the things about AC that ACC does not do.
Right. It should have just been Blancpain Online by Kunos, the makers of Assetto Corsa.
Right. Why couldn't we do that? Because there really is nothing Assetto Corsa about ACC.
No.
So
very little. Other than that, it's from that group, so a certain assumed physics or feeling direction. Like, this is the path. This is what that group feels like a sim feels like and should drive like. All right, I'm gonna take the next one, and I just want to watch your reactions.
Real quick.
Okay.
Real quick. How I interpret this has been made to give added exposure to a game we're hugely excited about. To me, that means there's way too much competition in September in that time frame. So we're just gonna push it back a little bit, so we have hopefully a better shot of producing more sales.
See, I guess I'm cynical, and I'm like, oh, well, we got so much love for this game. We need to do more marketing to make sure we sell even more copies.
I would say that they have not gotten the impressions off of either, lists being in, like, how Steam, you can put something on your wish list, stuff like that, or pre-orders. They don't have enough impressions, so that's why they're pushing it back to get more.
It wasn't in time. My phone hasn't rang, so it wasn't in time to contact me about a review copy.
What did Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
That was good. All right. So, next up.
Before I even get to this, 2 links. I have, when I do these shows, the news shows, the pit stops and Beyond the Sims, I have a browser with like 47 web pages on it, tabs. And it's like all the news tabs that I check out. And 2 of them have returned, like, no longer working, and they're for Heat 3. First it was their Twitter, then it was the Facebook, and I'm like, what's going on? And it didn't even occur to me. It should have, but it didn't occur to me. Well, maybe it would be for this reason, because here, coming out on the NASCAR channel, is First Look, NASCAR Heat 4. Oh my god, NASCAR Heat 4 coming in September 2019. So, we always talk about games and did they support the title. Billy Strange. is it time for Heat 4? Did they contact you about AI?
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh that hard.
I'm seeing big grids. Oh no, that was until they showed a little online race of 16 cars. Anyway, Heat 4. Are you excited? Are you gonna buy it? Are you gonna pre-order it?
I will try it. I will give it to be completely transparent. I actually thought Heat 2 wasn't that bad. I liked a lot of the systems. They did a good career, like something that meant something in career mode, and the handling was okay. I hated Heat 3 because it felt like they changed the handling and no. So Heat 3 was not my favorite. I will try Heat 4. The thing I find a little humorous about this whole announcement thing is they give you the whole trailer is what, 26 seconds, and I think 10 to 16 seconds of it is actual footage.
Right.
Most of it is staged. It does graphically look a little better. I feel like I'm seeing them slowly get rid of that weird hue, bloom, whitish glow that they have to their titles. It's still there, but it doesn't seem to be as prevalent. And like when they show the side shot of Kevin Harvick's number 4, like that looks pretty good.
Yes, that did look good.
But you want me to pre-order something that you show me nothing for at the very end. Pre-order. Like, why would I pre-order when you show me absolutely nothing about what your title is going to bring? Is it going to be the exact same thing? Are you doing anything different? Like, give me something. And
Yeah.
I just thought it was an odd way to market it. Like, come pre-order a game with 10 to 16 seconds of maybe gameplay. We're not really sure.
So and the pre-order bonus apparently, because they word it, pre-order 7/6/2019. That's tomorrow, to race Martinsville at night. So that's what you get. You get some lights at Martinsville. Otherwise, it's daytime only.
Why would you keep that out, though? Why does that have to be a pre-order bonus? Why would you do that?
I don't know. And yeah, and if I didn't pre-order, that's the that's the Warhorse. Sorry, it was Red Dead that I pre-ordered for the Warhorse. It's the only game that I can ever say that I actually bought into their stuff. Almost had to do 10 more push-ups. And yeah, I just don't buy the whole pre-order thing.
I don't. I used to pre-order a bunch of stuff when physical copies were limited, and you did have a chance of not getting it in the store.
Right.
So I used to pre-order everything. And now, as we've slowly transitioned to digital, it's like I don't pre-order anything unless I'm going to get to play it early or will let me preload. And I know that regardless, I'm going to play that game. Now, it's even better now that Steam and Xbox and PlayStation's kind of finicky about giving you refunds. But since those people are doing refunds, then it's like, well, if it's a title that I might be interested in, and I can preload it so that I can play it right when it launches, I'll pre-order for that. I mean, that's fine. I don't pre-order like weeks in advance. I kind of wait to see everything if I'm on the fence about it, and then, 2 days before I'll pre-order it just so it'll start downloading early and so I can play it but if it doesn't do that, I don't even bother pre-ordering it anymore. There's like those little extra things I don't even use.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me. So I don't know. I quit pre-ordering stuff in the sense that I pre-order stuff a long time ago.
When I think of NASCAR Heat 4 coming up, or NASCAR Heat 3 even, somebody the other day, I can't remember who in chat, they had said they keep project cars, and I'm not trying to call project cars out for this, but they keep project cars on their system for when a friend comes over who maybe doesn't sim race, and they have to just stick them in something so they can try out their rig and see how they're spending all their free time, kind of thing. Would you use NASCAR Heat for that? Like if it was on your system and somebody came over and they'd never sim raced, a long lost friend of yours, and you're like, oh, you gotta try out my rig. What do you like? And they're like, oh, I like NASCAR. And you're like, okay. So are you gonna stick him in iRacing or would you put him in NASCAR Heat?
See, that's so difficult because what kind of a NASCAR fan are they, and how much money do they have to spend?
Well, I'm not saying they're gonna buy a rig. I'm just saying they want to try yours
If I
out.
was going to have them try it when AI comes out for iRacing, I would put them in that. Right now, I would honestly put them in the like Assetto Corsa Talladega that I just worked on.
Right.
Tell them that this isn't really built for ovals. Like you're not going to get the yellow, but the actual racing itself is really cool. You just have to take it with a grain of salt.
Right.
But this is the potential of things that are available. I would never show them the NASCAR Heat stuff because I just don't think it. I don't feel like it does a good job representing NASCAR at all.
Right.
That's my opinion. I mean, now if Heat 4 is way better, then yeah, I would show them Heat 4 over iRacing because it's more accessible, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, the physics aren't going to be so brutal as iRacing can be. I don't want them to be a sim. Let's make something perfectly clear. Just like F1 2019, I did not want F1 2019 to be a sim.
Right.
What I wanted it to do was be good at the things that it was saying it was going to do. Same thing with NASCAR Heat. I don't want it to be a sim. I don't need it to be a sim. What I want it to be is the best version of what they're telling me that they're going for. That's what I want.
Are NASCAR Heat 3 and F1 2019 the exact same game?
I think they are. You could convince me that they are.
All right, a small bit of news, but we gotta mention it because one of the things we talk about are updates and how long do they stick to a title, and does NASCAR Heat 4 mean the end of anything that's gonna make NASCAR Heat 3 better? That's the other big question mark, and usually, to an extent, outside of fixing things that are like really broken, yes, I think that is the case. Anyway, Gran Turismo. I don't play it, but I pat them on the back. But balance of performance, not a big deal, but they did do an update, balance of performance, just to even out cars throughout all of their different classes. I mean, well, 4 of them. I think they have more than 4 classes, but everything from power to weight reduction.
I just like how they continue to monitor the community, and then I'm sure they do some sort of internal testing to see if how we can complain, but the fact is that's not really what's happening.
Right.
So I'm sure they do some sort of internal testing to test that out. But I like that they are like you said, power ratio, weight reduction ratio. Like I kind of skipped down because I saw Dodge Viper and I was just curious. So power ratio goes from 81 to 82%. Then below it, you got the 458 power ratio from 99 to 97. But weight reduction is now 109 to 107. So this is great. This is the constant thing that if you're having a competition, a game built around competition, this is exactly what you need to do. I applaud those, just like I said last week, I applaud Polyphony for sticking with this and making continual updates to the game to make it as fair as they possibly can. They've got some things right here. They don't have setups.
Right.
You just drive the car. You pick the car you want to drive and you drive the car. Now, is that simulation? Some people consider having a setup a simulation. I've actually run in spec races where you can't adjust much, so I don't know if I agree with that idea. And I actually think you'll get more participation from people if you don't charge them with having to make up their own setup. If you want to get to the pro level, like have it way up here on like the esports pro level, then yeah, make setups a thing.
Sure.
But for the 95%, for the majority of people that are racing, it's a perception thing. It takes away that possibility of, well, that guy's got some trick set up that I don't have, so it must be the setup. And it couldn't possibly be your driving. So that's what the great thing when we do the truck races. I know that if I am off the pace, it's me.
Right.
I haven't figured out something that we're doing in the trucks yet, right?
Right. Right.
This is no different. And I enjoy that part of it. If I want to compete at the upper level, then okay, yeah, open up the setup. But I think GT Sport does a few things really great, and this is one of them. They keep updating, and I think it's a really
Well,
good thing for the community.
well, and it shows that they're not just listening and making adjustments, but they're looking at great detail, because this is very specific when you look at the, how many cars they've addressed in various different classes. So it's like they're looking carefully, not just looking from abroad. So I'm pretty impressed. Everyone's calling for Mitchie to do the 100 push-up. You know what? Challenging Mitchie to do 100 push-ups, you'd need to make it more like 300. He's
I was gonna say, I think he can do 100 pretty easy.
Yeah, he's in his 20s and he's still an athlete. So I mean, if you had asked me to do 100 push-ups when I was 25, I would have done them in like 45 seconds. I mean, no BS. So, the only reason that was funny, sad, and pathetic is because I'm quite a bit out of shape. So, or I'm round. That's my shape.
That's a shape.
That's a shape. Not a good one, but it's my shape.
All right. And a last piece of news. What is Rfactor 2 doing here, Shaun?
They are just, I've mentioned it a few times, but I was talking to Jack Keatley this morning. And this is, he's like top 3 on the planet Earth in race room. This is one of the gods of sim racing. He's running in it with some big names. Redline is sending 2 teams, so I know Verstappen is on one of them, and I think Rudy's on the other. I don't know. They're sending their big wigs. So the Rfactor 24-hour Le Mans is tomorrow, 6th of July, starting at 2:30 p.m. They didn't give it time zones, so check it
should be pretty exciting. I mean, they've got a lot of really great people involved, so especially with Le Mans being a new track for everybody, it should produce some good racing.
Well, and to me, this sort of is like the dawn of a new era. Rfactor 2 has not really had the limelight, so to speak, of bringing the big names for the big events, other than like the Visa Vegas race.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of had it with the Sebring one, because they did a Sebring, right? And that kind of, I think, kicked it off. But I really think this is a good idea of them developers holding their own big races.
Yeah. So we could almost make this show.
I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Half the time I don't even know that I'm doing anything with them. Jazz hands.
We could almost do an entire show on Rfactor 2 in this respect, that I, for a long time, have been talking about, like, again, getting back to Paul Masson wine. I feel like Rfactor 2 has been this wine that we bottled a few years ago when it came out, that has literally required a couple of years till you even wanted to try it. Like, we'll just call it not even good wine. It needed a couple of years on the shelf. I don't drink, by the way, funny enough, as I give this wine analogy. And then it started to get good. And, so to the wine connoisseurs, when it starts to get good, you can start considering popping a bottle open here and there. But you are still waiting for that vintage year, the year that it's going to be perfect. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it ages forever. I don't think that's the case either. I think there's a period where it's like, this is when that is going to be its best.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I feel like Rfactor 2 is now getting into those years where it's time to start uncorking bottles, because the sim is good. The Tattoos lineup of cars.
Those are so great. Those are such good cars.
So with the amount of content, the Sebring track and the Tattoos cars created another one of those, wow, this is one of those combinations in sim. Right.
I would love to see all the big players do a race in one of those cars.
Yes.
I would absolutely watch that. I think it would be awesome to watch those guys hammer it out with one of those cars.
Take your pick. It's going to make a great race.
Yep.
And so I just feel like we're there. Well, and then coinciding timing wise, the big events are now coming into Rfactor 2. And the big names are starting to make appearances at our, Keatley, Verstappen,
And I think Race Room is doing somewhat of the same thing. They're holding their own big races, and they're slowly attracting bigger and bigger names to those. So I think it's all positive. I think it's a positive for these sims to organize big races on their own. I think Kunos could take a hint from doing that and do it with ACC. But this just, to your point, this just helps Rfactor too.
Yeah. When it comes to events, you and I have talked about the lower level payouts, right? Like all these payouts for the superheroes. And you could say the same thing in real life racing. Of course, you win a NASCAR race, it pays huge. How much does a guy who won the ARCA race get paid? How much does a guy who won some Miata race there get paid? Would it be horrible if any of these sim companies took on a huge sponsor like Coca-Cola or Red Bull, and it created where the prizes was nothing more than, hey, here's a 12-pack of Coke. You won a Friday night race. We mark certain races. Wouldn't, I mean, and I know some people would say that's horrible. It's commercialization. They're giving it away to Coca-Cola. How dare they? You should get paid more if it's going to get Coca-Cola money. But wouldn't that be cool? I mean, I think about iRacing, and I think about my wish list for iRacing to make it more fun. And it's like, can they just do something to make more things happen more often than just their special events for the masses? Yeah. And
I hear what you're saying.
And would a 12-pack be enough? What if it was Red Bull?
I don't like that. I don't like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the reason is because it doesn't do anything to commemorate what happened. I would, honestly, we did at the slot car store, we did product giveaways, and then we did for other events little dash plaques. This $1, $2 little dash plaques is all. And then like the winner got a slightly bigger. I had more people be excited about the dash plaques, which were way less than parts.
Right.
Because it commemorates something. They would stick them on their slot car box when they would come in. It's something to remember it by. Where if you get a 12, a case of Coca-Cola or a 12-pack of Bud or something, Bud Light, I don't drink beer anyways. It's a consumable that's gone. And I always kind of go back to, and I know this is on a professional level, but it's always stuck with me, is when I was running track and cross country in high school and I was watching the big major meets that the pro level guys were doing at the time, they were getting a car. They were getting stuff like that. And the guy just kind of went, I have nothing to remember it by. He happened to win. They're interviewing and like, isn't this great? It was like a $30,000 car. Isn't this great car? And he's like, it's nice, but I have nothing to remember this race by. And this doesn't put food on my table. I can't eat the car.
Right.
And I'm getting taxed on the car. So why not just give me the money?
Yeah. Let's cut the middleman. Let's cut to the chase. At least I take that home when I'm eating tonight.
Right. So I like the idea of what you're saying of making the lower races still mean something. But I would like to see them do even just little things, something to remember it by rather than just here's an iRacing pen or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I tell you what, if it was like the tiniest little dipshit, 30. If it was the tiniest,
people.
If it was the tiniest little trophy, and it said won Friday night's big race, it would mean a lot to me. It could be this little big, it could be this big, and it would be right there on top of my computer. I guarantee you, it would mean a whole lot. And so, if you were going to give away 3 of those every Friday night, that's a total of 156 of these little mini trophies that I'm quite certain if you bought them in China, you could get for like 35 cents. I mean, it's insane what they could do. It would be the shipping that would kill such a thing. But I would like to see them. This is a conversation I was having with a buddy of mine. It's like, man, these special events break the system. Right? And I wish Rfactor the best. Well, this is a restricted race. I was going to say it's not one of the mass races, right?
Right. No, it's yeah, to qualify. Was there any invitational spots? I don't know, but it
I
was definitely not open to the masses as far as this particular race.
Yeah, I
I
think it
think
was
I think you had
qualify
to
in.
qualify.
Yeah, I think it was qualify in. But the big events break systems, break servers. They get so many people involved, and I think that, like in the iRacing, their calendar for the single player version got cut short this year, or they changed it where, like the Daytona 500, they changed the regular NASCAR schedule to have a 500-mile race when people were normally for the rest of the season running, 30-minute races or whatever. Um, and then instead of it being on its own as a big event, versus like the endurance races are still on their own, but they're so far and few between, and you need to have a team, and it's road racing only. And it's like, well, the big events are big. Anyway, I don't know. I'm on a total diversion. I don't know how I got
Well,
here.
no, but it all matters, right? We talk about the gamification of things, and I think, while some people may not care, and I totally understand that, there's a lot of people that do. So I'm just going to read off a couple things here. I do not know how to say your name, Alte. It says, good point. When I won an iRacing Hot Lap event in Sydney and won a $700 modem/router, but got a trophy that probably cost them $30. The trophy is what I'll keep with me. And then David used to race RC cars, and he goes, God, I used to have a ton of trophies from RC. They really do bring back memories when you used to look at them, knowing what the race was. And I even think Jerry up here posted, yeah, he has he says, I have a plaque on my store's wall. When you win a championship, you get your name on it. More guys are interested in that than any sort of prize.
Yep.
We're not doing this to feed our families.
Right.
And even I think what kind of molded me that way was the short track or the dirt track stuff. The winner got a trophy. Nobody
Right.
else got anything.
Right.
And so, like, when I was racing RC cars, when I was running track and cross country, I only, I mean, you would get medals down to like sixth in like track and cross country, and then if it was a big meet you had to pay for, you get a participation. Well, I chucked all the participation ones.
Right.
I don't even care, because they give you, like, if you got third, you get the participation and the third place.
Right.
Like, I don't care. So I kept all of the major ones that were like I won, or if it was like a huge meet, top three. And same thing, it was funny because when I went and started doing the karting thing, you filled out a form saying if you did or did not want a trophy. And I just put, I don't want a trophy unless I win.
Right.
I don't need a second or third place trophy. That's just
Nope.
not how I've been raised, how my brain works. So then all of a sudden, like, I one of the classes you can run is actually a 2 race class. It's like a moto.
Uh-huh.
And so the first one I broke. I ran all the way up through the field, broke on like the 4th lap. I was up to like 5th and broke. Fixed it, came back out, came from the back and won the next moto.
Uh-huh.
Well, I finished like, so that meant I finished like 4th or 5th in the class, and they gave me a trophy, and I just kind of went, I don't need this.
Right.
Like, I did, but on the opposite end, as a kid, I got championship trophies. I still have those for RC cars.
Right.
I still have them.
Yep.
They're great memories. Hell, my dad, I told him, I said, I want some of your winter stuff when you go. Like, don't get rid of those things now.
Right.
I want those things when you're done. Because it's a memory. I like,
Yep.
and I remember being there when Dad would win a race, or he would win a trophy dash, and I'm standing in dirt track racing. They let the family come down, and like the whole crew gets out in the front straightaway, and you take in front of the whole crowd, and as a kid, your dad just won. You're holding the trophy, and you get to take the trophy up with you back into the grandstands. Like, those are great memories. So I want that.
Right.
So it's like people will remember, even like you said, 1-inch trophy. People are going to remember that.
Yeah, big time. It means a lot. Like, and we're not here for the money. We're here for the memories, essentially. So
Mhm.
the big one should. We did a T-shirt for the our first endurance race. It's like, well, that was kind of like a time stamped trophy, and it's like I've actually hung it on the wall more than I've worn it, because it's sort of, again, that's more of its status to me. So yeah, I think that would make sense to it doesn't have to be big. It needs to get your name out on it. That's what it needs. So, all right. So, Billy, anything on your mind? I like how we have cool topics of sim and dilemma.
Yeah, and by all means, if you guys have questions or a topic you want us to discuss, let us know in the comments or in the chat. But something that I have been watching off and on while doing editing or something like that, I'll watch somebody's race or a live stream, or even, we have now a few podcasts in racing games, sim racing area. And one of the things I find fascinating, especially when there's video evidence, is um Tom already trying to bait me in with the VR question. I'll get to that in a minute. Uh I find it fascinating how people perceive when a pass is made correctly and there's contact.
Mm-hmm.
Whose fault was it? Was it any fault at all? Was it the aggressor? Was it the one being passed? And I often find that people have, in my opinion, a skewed expectation of what you can see,
Right.
and the tools that are available for you to make a more informed decision like you would be doing in real life versus this. So what I wanted to ask was, yes, the cord of muscle. That's one of them. I wanted to ask you, what are your do's and don'ts for when you're going to try to make a pass and when you're getting passed? Like, what are the things you look for to either tell you abort or that you're going to make the pass cleanly? And likewise, when somebody's going to pass you, when do you kind of hold them really tight and try to keep them from passing you, or when do you just give up the position and live to fight another day and avoid contact?
That is a great question, and I can tell you that right off the bat, I was starting to process it and think about what I'd say, and then thinking about it, it's like, well, I don't actually have a one size fits all.
Okay.
Because remember we were talking about like reputation, rivalry, and all those things. If it's a rival, my answer might be completely different than if it's a non-factor.
Okay, fair enough.
Because yeah, there are some people who I'm like, I'll give you a great example. The truck race on Friday night when Mark Michkowski caught me, and I was running fourth, holding on at the end, and Mark, who was the class of the field that night by a good margin.
Yeah, in the beginning, I couldn't even, once we got a handful of laps, I couldn't even hold on to him.
I'd have put us both in the wall. I was driving so hard to not let him get by.
Would have wrecked my grandmother.
Yeah, I mean, I kept it clean. I wasn't going to knock him into the wall, but if driving that hard had resulted in a wreck, I wouldn't have been surprised. I was determined to not let him by, and I lost that battle, by the way. So yeah, I think it does change.
Not by much, though.
No, by like this, it was so close. So I tend to be a very clean driver. Like, I do not like when I am responsible for a wreck. It takes battling for a top 3 position in the final moments of a race for me to turn the wick up to where I'm like, I will concede nothing and I will take any chance for one more position higher. Like, those are the, like, without a major rivalry, those are the parameters it takes for my brain to trigger, I don't care about right and wrong, I care about my position. Versus the first 90% of the race, I probably cared more about my reputation and my ability to be a clean driver than I did my need for one more position. Now, I'm only answering the question on a personal level right now because my opinions on it are a little different than how I run myself.
Okay.
The other thing is, What was I gonna say?
Oh, I don't know.
Ah, come
Just
on,
lost it.
I
Oh,
totally
here, I'll
lost my
help
train.
you.
Yeah, you go.
The so my idea, well, I think if anybody's watched me run like the dirt track stuff or like the trucks or even on a road course with cars that I feel fairly confident in, I'm fairly aggressive, but I always give a lot of room. So, for instance, if I'm getting passed in the truck like at an oval, I will get, or I'm trying to pass somebody, I give more than enough room between us. But when we go down into the corner, I'm going to hold my line and I'm going to hold you to yours. Especially on restarts, I'm fairly aggressive on that. But I always do it when I think I can make it clean. Like I didn't have any. I typically don't get any contact points of my own doing. It's very rare that I hit the fence or spin out. I do occasionally, but that's going to happen when you're trying to run hard. So I run pretty hard, but I also give everybody the respect that if somebody, unless it's like the last lap or two, if somebody's coming up to even, I think, closely make a pass on me, I'd rather them make a clean pass quickly than me holding them up, which is slowing me down too.
Right.
And then the possibility of them getting frustrated and wrecking me.
Right.
I will just give that. And I think what I see a lot of is people misunderstanding well, he took my line. That that doesn't work. He took my line doesn't work because if the line's available, I'm going to take it. If you choose
You
to try
weren't
to stay,
there.
yeah, if you choose to try to stay in your line with the same breaking point that you've always had, that's your fault. That's not mine.
Right.
You're running into me. And what I think I see is like, well, that's his line. Now, to the contrary, if somebody opens the door because that's their line, and you've got plenty of room to put a car in there before they come back down, and this person isn't paying attention and comes back down, that's their fault.
Right.
You left the door open.
Right.
If you didn't want me passing you, you should have held a tighter line instead of sticking to yours.
Yeah, and
That's
if you
your
and it
in the real world, this is how it works.
Yeah.
Not so I
Yeah.
apply the same rules. In real racing, if you leave the door open, I'm taking that spot.
Yeah.
Just because you leave the door open in a virtual scenario doesn't change the rules of the game.
And if you think that when you get on the track that you're going to be able to run your time trial hot lap optimal line without obstruction, you're a fool if you think you're going to be able to do that in race mode. Because if you sit way out there setting out, you are leaving the door wide open, because all I need is a nose, and technically it's now our line. I don't even need nose to nose. I just need a nose inside
the same area.
Yeah.
So we both have to adjust what we're doing. My
Yeah.
hands, I don't know what this is about.
If I can put my car where you want or need your car to be, it is now my spot, not yours. And I argue that by the possession is 9/10 of the law, right? I have it because you're going to have to hit me to take it. If you're talking about that scenario. The other thing that I
real quick before you get there, Spatial has a really good question. Does the slow car hold to the racing line or not?
I mean, they say the slow car, you should always drive the racing line to make faster people go around you.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a long straightaway, let me rephrase that. Here's my first rule in boxing at the beginning of the match. What do they tell them? Fighters, protect yourselves at all times.
Mm-hmm.
When the green flag drops, one of your responsibilities as a driver is to protect your machinery at all times. And when we can, the first rule to passing, and this is why I'm like, well, how I handle it versus how I think the rule is. Well, the rule is possession. If I can get there, you are now going to have to put yourself in danger if you think you're coming into that apex.
Right.
Because I am now in your way. And who hits who, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And 9 out of 10 sanctioning bodies don't enforce that moment either. You know, you rear end someone in a braking zone by missing the mark by 100 feet. Yeah, you might get penalized. You will get scrutinized by everybody. Like, that's not how to pass or to do it. But if I can get a nose in on you and you come across my bow, granted, you are ahead. Granted, you're on the driving line. But again, I was able to put my car here. I am in the right as much as you. I, you know, and then when you see these arguments over this, and I think I know what one happened this weekend that might have caused the topic.
Perhaps.
Now it comes to, and this is the reality, because I watch soccer and I've been doing it with yellow cards on the Women's World Cup. It comes down to fan. Who are you a fan of? You're going to call it
right
based on what happened to your guy, or, you know, and I think that becomes a factor when doing it as a viewer making the call. Me as a driver, again, where are we at the race? I know when I'm going to put myself in danger, and like getting back to that nose in, I know damn well when I put my nose somewhere where that guy is probably going to smash into me turning for apex, because I know from where he's sitting, he doesn't even know I'm there yet he'll find out, you know?
Right.
And so I have to protect myself from that moment, and I probably have to check up the brakes and not allow that contact to happen, even though maybe it could go my way, maybe it goes his way. That's the other thing when it comes to contact. You don't know if one of you is getting out alive or if one of you is going to get the position easily. So getting to that part, and then to finish my thought, and then I have to run to the bathroom. 2 interruptions for Shaun today, one for the phone and one for the bathroom. My final thought, and then I'll hand it over to you, is one of my favorite things that I've developed over the years of sim racing, I love driving other people into a mistake. Like, I get so much thrill out of hounding somebody until they have an off track and I can walk past them. Not even have to fight them for position. I drove you into an error. You either crashed or went off track and I got by that easy. I love that. It brings a huge smile to my face. So if somebody's fighting me for position, I am a lot more likely to give way as quickly as possible for the point that you said. The race is an overall time. I hate nothing more than fighting tooth and nail for 4th position to watch 6th, 7th, and 8th catch up to our little battle and turn what was a fight for 4th and 5th into a fight for 4th through 8th and watch the top 3 podium guys disappear into the horizon. That makes me mad. So I'm going to give way, because rather than get a big heated fight early on, I'm better off letting you go. And now I'm going to hound your ass and drive you into a mistake and hopefully not allow 6th place to catch us, so that when you drive off track, I'm all alone. Now I can go to time trial mode and try to reel in the top 3. That's my philosophy on a road race, how I really play it. And then if I'm in a battle with inside of 10% of the race to go, you can count on no favors. However, if I make a significant mistake and I think that mistake might have opened the door to give you a nose, I'm probably going to stay on the wide line all the way around to make sure that I don't cause the contact that was caused by my driving mistake. So there's I think I got that's my whole to pass or not to pass. Now I go to the bathroom real quick and you give us your thoughts.
All right. So I would tell you from my real world racing experience, and what everybody tells you is it is a little bit of a two-way street. And the reason I say that is because if I'm the guy being lapped, I get told, hold my line. But the exception to that rule is if I can tell somebody is catching me, but they haven't caught me yet, and this applies more on an oval than anything. If they're running the low line, I will then run high going into a corner, because that's the line that they're taking, even if that is the line that I normally take. If I can tell far enough in advance that they're not going to catch me before that point, then I will give them the room move over and let them pass. Now, if they're all over me and they're coming out of a corner, you hold your line. You always get told to hold your line down the straightaway. Doesn't matter. I don't want you moving anywhere down the straightaway. That is something you should not do. Even if you can see they're catching you, do not move off of the line you have established coming out of the corner. So if you're coming out of the corner and you think somebody's going to catch you and you move over low coming out of the corner because that other person isn't right there yet, but you know they're going to pass you on the straightaway, that's one thing. But if you have already established your position on the racing line down the straightaway and somebody's going to pass you, hold your line. Do not move, period. It's in every racing school. It is in every racing book. You do not move off your line because it is so much more predictable for the driver making the pass to know you're doing the same thing over and over and that you're not going to deviate from that. They can make a cleaner, more precise pass than you trying to move all over the place if you're a lap driver. So there are situations where that is not always the case, but in general, you hold your line. Now, if we want to talk about the F1 deal, that is a case of both drivers have a gas pedal and a brake pedal. That's how I see it. Right? You knew you're getting passed. So you have one of two options. You can try and be a hero and hold your position and hope that he has to slow down enough on the inside of you to not make the pass, or you can let him by and try to fight back in the next turn. That was this, we run into it all the time. You know, they're in an oval racing, there is a difference that they tell you when you live and die by the high side. If you make those passes around somebody on the outside, you are a freaking hero. And if you wreck on the high side, cause a collision with somebody on the high side, well, it's much easier for you to get the boot on the high side than the guy underneath you. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, here's the stance I've always taken. As long as you don't cause damage, you know, put somebody in the pits, take somebody out, as long as you don't spin somebody out, as long as you don't put somebody in the fence, a little contact. We're so worried about people that I'm talking about F1 now. We're so worried about people not racing. And then when they get into a situation that they're racing, then people start to cry, but well, they had contact. They're racing their guts out. And you're talking about trying to get every little advantage you can because these cars are so hard to pass with. You're going to have that happen. They didn't knock each other out of the race. They didn't spin each other out. They didn't take each other to the fence. Let them race. So in getting to where does that line get drawn? He had established his position just like you should when you're virtually racing. If you establish your position, a nose in, and there's a couple different rule books, but oval tends to use a little different one because things happen really quick. But oval is typically once you put your front fender kind of up by their rear tire, you should give that person room going into the corner. Road racing tends to be a little more, you need to get that front tire close to being by their rear tire to give them position. Otherwise, the person on the inside needs to back out. But the same rules still kind of apply. There is an established position, and when you are leaving the door open, expect to be passed. That's how I see it. Yep. So if when I'm doing it, if I ever see somebody even just poke out and I think they're close enough, they may not actually be close enough. I just give them the room. Yep. Go on through, because I'm not going to risk getting wrecked. But often what I find is when people are here, and then this guy turns in, this guy complains, I had the line, it was my position, or I'm sorry, the inverse. He's barely there. And then this guy takes his line, and this guy cries about it. I'm like, you weren't even alongside. Right. Or the inverse I've seen where this guy gets upset when you're fully alongside and he just still tries to take the corner. It's like, give way. Yeah. Yeah. You just got wrecked for no reason and lost a ton of positions, you could have let the guy by, and that is no longer your position on the track.
Right.
So I always find it a little interesting how these things go back and forth.
I think people's memories are super short too. So as they come off that final corner onto where the classic scenario is a turn one, right? So it's following the long straightaway into braking into turn one. That's your most common passing spot. So coming off the final corner, the lead guy probably should know if you've been in a battle, with somebody. Now, if they reeled you in, we shouldn't even be having this conversation. Because if someone tracked you down from 4 seconds back, you better not fight them all that hard, quite honestly. It's like, or you better be really aware that guy is that much faster. So if these moments happen, you get even less wiggle room in your defense as the lead car. But when you come off that final corner, you should have a certain awareness of whether you got a good run or not. And when I am in a heated battle for position and I'm the lead car and I come off that final corner, when I get a good run, I have a little more confidence going into turn one and braking. I'm like, you know what? I can take a wider line in. He shouldn't be able to get a run on me, draft dependent on the cars. But, and then that way I can actually lower my guard a little bit going into turn one. Now, if I get a mediocre run off the final corner, I should be nervous down the whole straightaway. Like, I didn't get a good run. If he got a good run, he's going to be able to get around me. So I should already be more defensive if I'm going to block, or more aware of being passed if that scenario should play out. And they go hand in hand. Because quite honestly, maybe that move should have been, well, cool, why don't you make an early move to the inside? Like, hey, I got a bad run. I'm going to go ahead and come off the driving line. I'm going to go to the inside, and I am going to force you to pass
wide.
me on the wide line, which is a total awesome move to make. And now going into turn one, if I'm aware and I see that he's on his run, cool, I'll hold my low line. But hopefully I'll be able to...
My only thing is, as long as you establish that really... not at the last second, but before the other guy gets there, the other person gets there.
Right.
It's an absolutely fine. It's not a move I do unless it's the very, very end of the race. But if you want to do that, fine. I would say that you're slowing yourself down.
Sure.
Than just kind of accepting the punishment, the beating that you're about to receive for somebody passing you. But, a perfect illustration is when I raced, when Mark had fresh tires. Oh, video connection went down. When Mark had fresh tires in the truck race, not this one, but the last one, I tried to hold him down, but I didn't totally block him because I knew he was so much faster than me. Even though we're on the same lap and we're fighting for position, we're fighting for, what was it, second, third. If I had completely closed the door on him, he had so much speed, he would have just run into the back of me and spun me out.
Right.
So instead, I gave him room, but man, I held him down. And that's the kind of, I guess what you're talking about in that example right there is, yeah, there's nothing I can do about it. It's literally says the connection is not good.
You see me coming back. I heard you. It was just a little jittery, but I heard you the whole time. Oh, until there, where we've totally lost Billy. I think, as Billy was saying, that's like part of this. When you take on the topic of passing do's and don'ts, let's just say, there's so many ways to look at it. I mean, you have the moment of contact and making the judgment call of who was at fault. And can you really pass judgment? I know, I totally killed it, Devin. And can you pass judgment on that moment? The other aspect is from the racing perspective, and are you the contestant, and do you want to finish the race? Do you want to see the checkered flag? And then the other aspect of it, of course, is how far do you push that line? Like Billy's talking about in the oval scenario, somebody's faster and you can hold them down really, really low, especially coming off of like the corner at Charlotte, coming off the final corner at Charlotte. If you can pin them down low and give them no track to work with, not only do you give yourself all of the room to the outside in order to run out the corner and carry speed, but you're going to make him really have to get out of the gas and not overspin or do anything to loop the car around. So, we lost Billy, and that's going to screw up our cameras. Here comes Billy. I think he's trying to reconnect right now. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, holding someone low on an oval, or like I said, I mean, you can make that move to the inside on the road, force them to the outside. Did I miss? Oh, Theodore, can someone confirm that? I mean, I'm back up to 40. 40 is more than I can do in one run when I'm in good non-pain shape. So, all right. Well, it looks like Billy might not be joining us, and I think we'd pretty much exhausted. He says it's Discord. The internet's fine. All right. Well, I think we pretty much exhausted that. If you guys like our thoughts or opinions on do's and don'ts of past, if you have your own and you think it's something that you want your opinion chimed in, you can always feel free to email me, Shaun, SHAUN at thesimpit.com. Love hearing your guys' thoughts on things. And of course, the big one, if you have discussions of topics for discussion that you think we should be talking about, like do's and don'ts of passing, the importance of setup versus fix. If there's a topic you think Billy and I should bring to Beyond the Sim and talk about in great detail, be sure to email me that as well, Shaun, SHAUN at thesimpit.com, and maybe we'll add it to the show. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. We finally crossed over the 40,000 mark. Now our video is really messed up. I'm not even going to try to fix it. I can try to get into the camera view. So anyway, that is going to do it for this show. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Be sure to check out Billy Strange Racing on YouTube as well. Subscribe over there. You'll find us on iTunes, whatever the new iTunes is, and SoundCloud. You will find the podcast version of the Friday show, the Beyond the Sim with Shaun Cole and Billy Strange. Take this on the road with you. But that is going to do it for this one. Be sure to thumbs up or even thumbs down if you don't like the things we're talking about. That's okay. Be sure to interact, engage with the show, and help us continue to grow both of our channels. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the pit crew. Get out there, do some racing tonight. We have the trucks race coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. Tomorrow, I'm going to try my best to make it into the VEC Virtual Endurance Championship on iRacing and the HPD with Stan Donnett and Moses Choi. I have today to get up to speed, and we'll see if I make the team cut for the first race or not. I might have to wait till the second one. We'll find out that and more coming up over the weekend. Should be lots going on here. Hopefully you'll tune in for that as well. Get out, do some racing, have fun, have a great weekend. This is the SImpit. I'm Shaun Cole, and I'll see you on the track. And Billy would be saying goodbye to you as well. This is the SImpit. This is Beyond the Sim. I'm Shaun Cole. That was Billy Strange, and we will see you on the track.